Today, FDA approvals in bladder cancer, lung cancer, acute myeloid leukemia, and liver cancer, and a breakthrough therapy designation in non-small cell lung cancer. Welcome to Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus. The FDA has granted an accelerated approval to the PD-L1 inhibitor durvalumab for the treatment of patients with locally advanced or metastatic urothelial carcinoma who have disease progression during or following platinum-containing chemotherapy. It is also indicated for patients who have disease progression within 12 months of neoadjuvant or adjuvant treatment with platinum-containing chemotherapy. The Ventana PD-L1 assay, which is the complementary diagnostic for PD-L1, was also approved. The approval was based on findings from the Phase 1/2 Study 1108. Here, the objective response rate per blinded independent central review was 17% for patients with locally advanced or metastatic urothelial carcinoma. The ORR was 26.3% in patients with high PD-L1 expression. The accelerated approval is contingent on the results of a confirmatory trial. In non-small cell lung cancer, the ALK inhibitor brigatinib was approved by the FDA as a treatment for patients with metastatic ALK-positive non-small cell lung cancer who are resistant to prior crizotinib. The approval is based on Phase 2 findings from the ALTA trial, in which the 180 milligram daily dose of brigatinib was linked with a confirmed objective response rate of 53%. Additionally, the median progression-free survival was 13.8 months. In patients who received 90 milligrams of brigatinib, the confirmed ORR was 48%. There were 4 complete responses in the 180 milligram arm and 1 in the 90 milligram arm. This accelerated approval is contingent on results from a confirmatory trial. The Phase 3 ALTA-1L study has been initiated to compare brigatinib with crizotinib as a frontline therapy for patients with ALK-positive NSCLC. The study is assessing the 180 milligram dose of brigatinib. The FDA has also granted an approval to midostaurin for the treatment of adult patients with newly diagnosed FLT3-positive acute myeloid leukemia. The agent will be given in combination with standard cytarabine and daunorubicin induction and cytarabine consolidation. The companion diagnostic Leukostrat CDX FLT3 mutation assay to test for FLT3 mutations in patients with AML was also approved. Additionally, the FDA approved midostaurin for the treatment of patients with advanced systemic mastocytosis, including aggressive systemic mastocytosis, systemic mastocytosis with associated hematological neoplasm, and mast cell leukemia. In the Phase 3 RATIFY trial that led to the FDA approval in AML, the addition of midostaurin to standard chemotherapy led to a 23% reduction in the risk of death versus chemotherapy alone. After censoring for patients who receive stem cell transplants, the overall survival benefit with midostaurin remained steady at 25%. Regarding safety, grade 3 or higher adverse events were found to be similar between the midostaurin and placebo arms. 37 grade 5 AEs occurred in the trial, which was similar between the two arms. This was not found to be statistically significant. In liver cancer, the multikinase inhibitor regorafenib was approved by the FDA as a second-line treatment for patients who had previously received sorafenib. Regorafenib's approval is based on data from the Phase 3 RESOURCE trial, which demonstrated a median overall survival of 10.6 months with regorafenib plus best supportive care versus 7.8 months for placebo with best supportive care. This represents a 38% reduction in the risk of death. The median progression-free survival was 3.1 months in the regorafenib arm versus 1.5 months in the placebo group, representing a 54% reduction in the risk of progression or death. The median time to progression in the regorafenib group was 3.2 months versus 1.5 months with placebo. The overall response rate with regorafenib was 10.6% compared with 4.1% with placebo. Regorafenib is also already approved for the treatment of patients with metastatic colorectal cancer and gastrointestinal stromal tumors. Also in non-small cell lung cancer, the FDA granted a breakthrough therapy designation to lorlatinib for use in patients with ALK-positive metastatic disease who have previously received one or more ALK inhibitors. Lorlatinib is a selective ALK-ROS1 tyrosine kinase inhibitor with significant intracranial activity that is active against more known mutations. Pfizer, the company developing lorlatinib, submitted results to the FDA from an ongoing phase 1/2 study. Findings showed that the overall response rate with lorlatinib was 47%, with 3 complete responses and 22 partial responses. The median duration of response was 10.5 months among ALK-positive patients and 12.4 months in patients who are both ALK and ROS1 positive. Updated data will be presented at the 2017 ASCO annual meeting. This week, we also sat down with Dr. Howard Kaufman of Rutgers Cancer Institute to shed light on the recent FDA approval of avelumab in Merkel cell carcinoma. Dr. Kaufman, thank you for joining us today. We recently saw the FDA approval in March 2017 of avelumab in Merkel cell carcinoma. Can you tell me what is the significance of this approval and how are you already seeing it impact clinical practice?
Merkel cell carcinoma is a rare but aggressive tumor, and to date we haven't really had any FDA-approved drugs for this disease. So we typically treat these patients with chemotherapy, which about half will respond initially, but almost all the patients will develop recurrence within about 6 to 7 months. So having another agent available is a big advance. So this is the first FDA-approved drug now for treating metastatic Merkel cell carcinoma. Avelumab is a monoclonal antibody that targets the PD-L1 receptor. And we know that many, if not all, Merkel cell carcinomas will express PD-L1 somewhere within the tumor microenvironment. And when the PD-L1 binds to the PD-1 on T cells, it basically will cause those T cells to shut down or even be killed and really can block the immune response. So in the presence of avelumab, what happens is the T cells remain active and can target the Merkel cell for destruction. Because the monoclonal antibody is an IgG1, it also may have ADCC activity, so natural killer cells could come in and potentially also mediate anti-tumor effects. So in the clinical trial that was conducted in 88 patients who had metastatic Merkel cell carcinoma and who had progressed after chemotherapy, we saw a response rate of 33%. And we did see some complete responses, and now that we followed these patients now for a median of about 16 months, we know that 72% of the responders are still in response a year or more after treatment. So we're very excited about this. I think this really is changing the treatment paradigm for patients with advanced Merkel cell carcinoma. And surprisingly, the FDA has approved this not only for patients who had already failed chemotherapy, but also for patients who've not had chemotherapy yet. And there is an ongoing trial to really look at the role of avelumab in these patients, and we anticipate that the response rates, at least in the initial cohort of patients, will be reported at ASCO in 2017.
For the full interview, visit enclave.com. That's all for today. Thank you for watching Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus.